Good morning, Philippines. Good evening, America, and a big mabuhay around the world. Hello, everybody. Man, it's been a while. It's been a few days. I've just been catching up on my sleep and catching up on stuff. But I knew I had to get back in the business, get back on the channel, and get back up there. I know there's been a lot of stuff happening, especially in Asia and around the world right now with the coronavirus. And man, everybody is kind of really worried about it. And I think everyone should be worried. Not to panic, but to be concerned, And I know nowadays to say worry means like you're like, ah. But, people should be concerned about it, and people should take appropriate steps, to protect themselves and others. Right now, I'm not used to being in this geographic location. We just moved here a couple months ago, so I'm not used to being close to China. 20 years ago, of course, we had the SARS outbreak in 2003, which I guess isn't 20 years ago, but, it's almost close to 20 years. And that was kind of a big scare. And then we had the H1N1, which I just read recently came out of Mexico. So we get these periodic sort of pandemics coming. It's not a pandemic yet. I guess it's an epidemic. But, things are spreading. I guess that's because, China is sort of, more integrated in the world than it was around 20 years ago in 2003 with the SARS epidemic. And so they were more, they could easily contain it. But, there's a lot of people from China traveling around the world right now. A lot of tourists, and I think the stat for Japan was 18 million Chinese tourists visit Japan. I was like, wow. So we're not used to all these people coming out of China visiting the world, and that's a great thing to have tourism, to have business, to have people meeting each other. But the flip side of that, of course, is that when you have trouble, especially in this case because of viruses spreading, the viruses spread quicker. And so I don't think the world was quite ready for that. That's kind of a new thing with China being more integrated in the world economy and just in the world in general, because it's basically been shut off because of communism since, around 1950. And so we're seeing this increasingly more active role for China in the world and for its citizens and for people. And so, unfortunately, we got caught up in this coronavirus thing going around, and we don't really know how to handle that right now. There's a lot of rumors and a lot of, a lot of rumors and a lot of innuendo going around. All we know right now, of course, is that China has shut down basically a couple of a province area and a couple of large cities. China is such a huge place, and there's so many people. This is a minor city for them, but it's like, I don't know, what is it, like 15 million for Wuhan or something like that? So it's for, in the West, we're 15 million people. That's a lot of people. In China, of course, it's not as big as Beijing or Shanghai, but that's pretty big. And apparently it was a very popular place because we have a lot of Westerners and a lot of people and people from Asia too that were in Wuhan. So, it happened to hit in a city that was well connected. It wasn't, far out in the provinces. It was well connected, with the transportation routes and the economic routes. And so we're seeing this spread around Asia right now, and I guess no one really knows, how far it's going to go. As far as the Philippines, a couple of ships, docked in port the other day, and they convinced them to. I know that one was a freighter, I think, another one was a cruise ship from Hong Kong, and the Subic Bay people around that area sort of protested that they didn't want them landing there. And they, the cruise ship owner said, okay, we'll just go back home. And the freighter, I don't know, I guess it left. And then, of course, a few days ago, there were a couple of people, I forget, maybe 500, I believe, from China that were in Boracay. And I was really surprised to learn that, Boracay, its second most, popular tourist spot or sort of visitors is China, Korea first, then China. And so I guess these people had kind of arranged coming over, and they were flown back into, I think it might have been Wuhan. I'm not really sure. So at this point, you can see the governments are mainly concerned with people from Wuhan, but viruses spread, and so we're seeing it in other provinces and other places, and it's gone into Hong Kong, it's gone into Singapore, it's gone into Malaysia, it's gone into Thailand. Thailand has a lot of Chinese visitors. So far in the Philippines, there hasn't been a case confirmed yet, although a few people, and most of the people that are being watched are in Manila, and they're at a few hospital locations, and they're being monitored. I know that a person possibly with AIDS died the other day. They don't know what from. People with AIDS, excuse me, I mean, I'm not an expert or anything, but I know that a lot of people with AIDS do die of pneumonia. He was confirmed to have AIDS, but we don't know if he has this new coronavirus, which has been given some type of other name now. But I'll just call it coronavirus, for the purposes of this video out here. But right now, the Philippine government has also canceled the sort of I'll call it on the spot visa, where you can just fly in and get a visa for 30 days. They've canceled that. And I believe that China has canceled tour group visas on their own. So there's no one with that can go in a tour group leaving China. It's mainly individuals. Now, there has been some concern in Paranaque about some of the gambling facilities and some of the areas that house a lot of Chinese workers, that they want them to be sort of looked at and taken a look at. I know that the casinos themselves, these online casinos, they've been told by the government, be very careful about bringing new workers in from China. So this is just a very hard thing. I know the governments around the world, no one has really stopped any trips into China right now, although British Airways and a few other how should I say, airlines there have decreased their flights. I know American has. And other airlines have either stopped or decreased their flights into Shanghai and Beijing and other places. But for the most part, I think most airlines are still operating out of China, and if not, they're operating out of Korea or Taipei, and the Chinese can go into those areas and fly out. So there is still no direct quarantine of China right now. I know people in the Philippines, some of them, like I said, in Subic Bay, are getting a little bit nervous about what's going to happen. Of course, I don't know, the Philippines was not really affected by the SARS outbreak, which, like I said, happened in 2003. And mainly because there weren't that many Chinese workers here. Now, of course, there are a large percentage of Chinese I should say Filipinos, that have Chinese backgrounds. And there's always been a lot of Chinese business in the Philippines. But I don't think that it was, there were that many back in 2003. So this is going to be kind of a new challenge, not just for the Philippines, but for Asia and also for the world to deal with this. Now, so far, I don't think, that masks and everything have been flying off the shelves, although I do know that there have been some schools in Quezon City, excuse me, that have closed, and some international schools that have closed. Some have reported that they want to get people wearing masks all day long in the classrooms. I don't know of any public schools that have been closed, or even small private schools that have been closed due to this sort of coronavirus scare as of now. So that'll be kind of interesting as time goes on, what's going to happen. I think a lot of people are taking a wait and see approach to see if this new step. Now, the World Health Organization, the UN organization right now, has, I think the main director has visited China, and they're not declaring an emergency right now. So we'll have to see. what exactly is happening. This virus is very new. People don't really know enough about it. People are really struggling and scrambling, I should say, to find out more about it. The testing kits, for the virus, I know a lot of times they were sending them into Australia from the Philippines and other places, or Japan. And the Philippines right now is creating its own test kit, which I think will be available today to local hospitals. So, we have to, kind of take this wait and see as people catch up to the virus and try to figure it out. I think the main concern about the virus is if it mutates. I think that's what they're really scared about. And if it mutates into something else, it could be extremely dangerous. I know, and we don't even know the statistics coming out of China. China has been saying they're being forthright and being honest, but we don't really know this as of now. And if it's based on past history, the Communist government of China has not been very forthcoming, honestly, with what's going on. Hopefully, they are being more honest as of now, and they are taking this very seriously, which I know that they're moving all their resources, they're building extra hospitals and doing these things. Hopefully, the information coming out is accurate, and people can sort of understand what's happening with this virus. But Australia is getting some, the U.S. is getting some, France, UK. It's just that when you have the world's most populous country and people are moving around, this is kind of a new thing out of China, out of Asia, which people haven't experienced before. Hopefully, the people in charge are taking the appropriate and requisite steps. We only can hope that because we don't have all the information. So far, there seem to be a limited number of cases, but these, of course, are only people that have been verified of having it. There's probably a lot more cases in China as we speak, and probably, there's going to be more cases coming up. I've read online that some experts have even stated that, April is going to be the high water mark. And there are some people saying that, China is saying, I think around, 5,000, 6,000 cases in China. People are saying it's quadruple that. So we're talking about maybe 40 or 50,000 cases in China, possibly. And I know in Hong Kong, the health workers are protesting because they want all contact with China cut off immediately. So, these are challenges that we're kind of dealing with right now. As far as the, our family here, we're being extra cautious. We're staying mainly inside, meeting too many people or going outside too much. And that's because we're being extra cautious to see what happens, especially with Matthew, until we can figure out what's going on. So as far as us personally in the Philippines, I mean, I wouldn't say we're panicked or upset or, extremely worried, but we're cautious. And, Priscilla's going to go out today and do some shopping, and she's going to wear a mask. And when she comes back, she'll wash her hands and do all those kind of basic things that happen. So, we're just going to take it as a day-by-day thing. And, of course, Matthew will watch his contacts with other people and things like that. And for us, too, until we actually understand, how virulent or how dangerous this virus really is. And I think we're going to get, in the coming weeks, we're really going to find out how dangerous it is. And hopefully God will protect us, and it's really not that dangerous, and it doesn't mutate or change in any shape, way, or form, that, kind of just dies out on its own. But I think we're kind of looking at, many of the experts are saying, excuse me, going into June or July, when it kind of subsides. And so what we can do is pray and hope that, yes, it is, Marcelo. It is live. How are you out there? It's live right now, right from BGC, Taguig. It certainly is. So if Marcelo is new or how many people are viewing this, but if you could, we're a new channel. So if you could hit the like button and subscribe, that would be very, very grateful for that as we're trying to build our brand and build our audience. And any comments you have or suggestions, that would be great as well. You can tell I'm a little tired. Yeah, I've been offline, for a couple of days, and I got up early, and I just figured, I got to do this and get this going. But Marcelo, yeah, this is live for sure. This is not a pre-recorded message here. So, just to give an up-to-date kind of recap, there are steps being taken by the government. They've canceled some visas. Some ships, Chinese ships, have been sent home. There are about, I don't know, 20 to 30, maybe, I can't remember the exact count, maybe 40 people kind of being looked at and monitored in the city of Manila and around the Philippines. Most of them are in the city of Manila. There are some in the provinces. There have been some people trying to be repatriated or brought back from the Philippines from Wuhan, and the government, I guess, the Philippines is working on that. I was reading something today that the Chinese government is basically saying people should not be repatriated. They don't want people leaving China, saying that it'll just contribute to the spread of the disease. So we have a lot of Western governments and Japan, excuse me, Japan has repatriated a lot of people too. And there are some people in Japan kind of worried about that as well. In the U.S., I read this morning that one person suspected of having this new coronavirus off a plane from Beijing, I want to say. They examined him and let him go at Boston Airport, Logan Airport, saying that we can't hold him. He doesn't want to go to the hospital. So, we just can pray and hope that nothing really bad is happening, that we can look back upon this and say that the officials in every country should have been a little stricter. I really don't have all the information. Nobody does. But we hope that they're making the right decisions around the world right now about, quarantining and what they're watching. And, especially when people are just let off the plane and then, they're just gone. So I don't know. I really have no answers for this. I don't have enough information to make that decision. But, we just hope that, the governments around the world are making the right choices here. I know some places, I forget what country, I think Mongolia has shut off China completely. And I think New Guinea, is it New Guinea? I can't remember. They have also closed their borders, which are very, very sort of, Mongolia is not small, but more remote than others. But really no word out of Russia, which is kind of interesting because they share a border with China. And that they said that the coronavirus had spread as far as the border of Russia. So, you got to think the Russians are a little concerned about this as well, but nothing coming out of Russia. Like I said, in the Philippines, there are some schools that have closed, some international schools, some quote-unquote Chinese schools that was reported in the Inquirer the other day. I don't know why they called them Chinese schools, but there's about 10, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 schools, something like that. I know the French International School has been closed down. I know the German International School, they're being very cautious about what's happening. The major ones, though, like the National School of Manila and the British School of Manila, I haven't seen anything about them closing down, but they've all been taking steps to, passing, I think, passing out alcohol, telling kids to wash. The international school, the German international school, they ran out of alcohol and soap or something like that. So they're replenishing that and hiring some people to keep things extra clean. So that's kind of where we're at. Most of the cases are in Manila that they're watching. Like I said, there was a man that was diagnosed with AIDS And AIDS does produce pneumonia as a sort of, I don't want to say byproduct, I don't know the exact medical term would be, as a side effect of the disease, because the immune system's so low, a lot of them do get pneumonia. But in this case, this coronavirus also causes pneumonia. In any case, though, this would be an immune deficient individual that was attacked by the virus and unfortunately did pass away. So, there were also the first people that died in China were older and had various medical problems as well. As I said, all we can really hope for is that this virus is not that virulent, and is not going to mutate into something worse. So now, as far as we can see, and like I said, I'm not an expert, it seems relatively mild. Many of the people are not, I think, if you look at the statistics, I think, what is it? Is it 800 have died? Let me see. No, I think 100 have died. Let me see here. I'll just do a quick search here. Fatality rate. They're saying it's 2% from the World Health Organization, which of course is not great. You don't like anyone to die, but it seems to be relevant considering probably there's a lot more than 8,000 people infected with it. There have been a lot of videos coming out, not a lot, but a few videos coming out of China where there have been doctors and nurses and people being posted online being extremely upset about what's going on as far as being crowded and not getting enough assistance. So we hope that they're getting that assistance now. And what I don't really understand, though, is, when we have the Ebola emergency in Africa, the world kind of descends on this. And so I don't really understand. There have been some, I know America has volunteered some groups, but I think that, they should really just start flying things into China right now. And just, just offer supplies up and personnel up. But I don't know if they're afraid of spreading the disease or a wait and see approach, or the communist government of China is afraid of being embarrassed, or, who knows what's exactly going on here. But we just hope that, the appropriate steps are being taken at this time. As we say, as we can see in Manila, people are concerned. And some people have been calling for a complete ban of Chinese tourists and workers coming into the country. And so far, the government has said no, that it's not necessary for that to take place. But in Subic Bay, there were protesters out there that kind of chased away a cruise ship from Hong Kong that had been cleared in Manila. So, the concern is rising in the Philippines. Some schools have been shut down, not too many of them. If you walk around, you can see more and more people wearing masks as, sort of self-protection. But I don't see the people really getting very worried or upset at this moment. But people are apprehensive, meaning, they are worried in the sense that what's going to happen next. Let's be careful here. Some voices talking about a ban of Chinese workers and tourists coming in. So we'll have to see what happens. And as I said, there are some people down in Paranaque that are concerned that there's a lot of Chinese workers that work at the online gambling casinos next to them, that, they want them checked out. Now, this has all been reported in the news, and so we'll have to see. For the most part, I think that people have been relatively calm, but there are some concerns going forward. And what's amazing to me, though, is how well the governments of the world have really been tracking everybody. Now, we all know there's probably people that are, falling through the cracks here, that they don't know about. But man, around the world, they are really keeping track of everyone very well, and the different destinations that came through. Now, I know there was a report the other day, I forget what newspaper it was, where a Filipino couple came out of China, and they imposed a self-quarantine on themselves, where they declared that they had been to China, maybe even Wuhan, which is the epicenter of this. And people basically, I mean, you can only read the report, this was in a newspaper, saying that they volunteered the information where they had been. And they said, no, you're not showing any symptoms, so you're free to go. And they put themselves under self-quarantine. And so we really have to thank them for that, to being extra careful, that there are some really good people out there, not just Filipino, but, in the Philippines and around the world, that are being, diligent and careful, and they don't want anyone getting sick because of where they've been. So this Filipino couple, I think they said they had 7 days left in self-quarantine. And there were reports previously that the disease itself cannot be transferred from person to person. Well, we know this is not true. There have been cases of people not living in Wuhan, China, and we know a man in Japan who was a tour bus driver who got sick, and spouses who got sick from people that had been into Wuhan. So we know that there is human to human transfer of this virus, and we just don't know what the incubation period is, when people begin to manifest symptoms, and how contagious it really is. We have no idea. People have been saying it's more contagious than SARS, but less deadly than SARS. That SARS was killing at a much higher rate than this particular virus. The danger is, and that's why I think the world is, watching very carefully with a bated breath, is because they're afraid it's going to mutate. And so far, I know that the Centers for Disease Control outside the U.S. has basically said that they've sort of matched it with the DNA from China, and it has not mutated so far. But I think what they're really scared of is that it will mutate and turn to something really dangerous. And of course, what they're really concerned about is, like, the last pandemic that we had was around 1919, 1918, which was the so-called Spanish flu, which wiped out millions and millions of people, when infected soldiers from around the world returned home from World War I. And very, very, very bad. Not only, all the people dying from World War I, and the additional deaths of the Spanish flu. But we pray to God that does not happen, that, this virus kind of dissipates on its own. But we're really not going to know that until a couple of months. And so far, it doesn't look as deadly. And we have children that survive. It mainly seems to be hitting the elderly very hard, that have pre-existing health conditions. But, so far, there hasn't been that many deaths reported, especially in the Philippines. There hasn't been too many cases reported. I think they're watching, like I said, 40 people. So we just have to pray to God and keep the faith. And we pray for our leaders to make the right decisions, and for people to make the right decisions about other people's safety. And all we can do really is, take those basic steps and, wear a mask if you're really concerned. Also wash your hands. One of the things I tell my wife and everyone, is, be careful when you're out there touching elevator buttons, hand railings, car door handles, doorknobs, things of this nature, and make sure you wash your hands immediately after that. you're supposed to wash your hands in hot water. I know many people in the Philippines don't have hot water, out of the tap, out of the spigot or faucet. And so that's a little bit of a concern of mine. In most Western countries, I don't know about the rest of Asia, you have a hot water knob and you can just get hot water coming out. So hot water is important, when you're washing your hands. Cold water doesn't work quite as well, probably not even close to as well. So I would, try to tell people to, I don't know where they're going to get the hot water from, to be honest with you, but, at least wash your hands very well, and don't touch your mouth or your nose when you're in public. Touching door handles and touching anything like that, that's where most germs reside, not just coronaviruses. So you just want to keep your hands to yourself. And when you do touch, escalator railings, elevator buttons, doorknobs, things like that, to really be careful and to wash your hands afterwards. And I'm going to even go, I'm going to be extremely extra cautious. And, in our family, when people go out and come back in, to really wash their hands and, being extra cautious, take a shower real quick, and take your clothes off and get them washed or something like that. And not to go, extremely crazy about it, because you can go too far, but, within reason, take a shower, wash your clothes. And when you're out there during the day, keep your hands clean and don't touch your nose. Okay. Don't touch your nose, your mouth, mainly your nose. Your mouth has, secretions. It also goes to your stomach. So it's unlikely if you touch your mouth, but your nose is much worse, but I wouldn't touch either. Especially your nose. Keep your hands to yourselves, and make sure you tell your children, or as much as possible, not to touch their nose or mouth. That's how disease spreads, mainly these germs spread. So right now we're doing okay in the Philippines. Things are, there hasn't been a case detected so far. The rest of the world has a few cases, if not more than what they're reporting. China, of course, has a lot more cases. We don't know if it's, 8,000 or 40,000. Many experts are saying it's probably in the 40,000 range. So we just have to take precautions, see what's happening, and not to panic, and be calm, and pray for our leaders to make the right decisions, and pray for ourselves to make the right decisions. And if we handle, that's the great thing about public health, is that everyone washes their hands and wears a mask and takes care of themselves, the disease will probably die out on its own. The virus will sort of dissipate if we do our jobs as, individuals, and keep our hands clean and keep our noses covered, and make sure when you sneeze and all these kinds of things, you go like this. And more importantly, if you're sick, stay home. Don't go out there spreading it. Stay home. And if you're really, of course, really, really, really ill, and you've been to China and other places, to sort of alert the authorities. But I would think at this point we're not seeing, too many people coming down with the virus, except for people that have direct contact with others from China. So hopefully that can be contained, and the governments of the world are watching, and hopefully the United Nations is watching. And like I said, right now everything seems to be okay, but we have to be cautiously optimistic. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. And we have to pray for all those who are sick, that they do get better. And we have to pray that we all make the right decisions. And like I said, not to be selfish, but if we are sick and we know we've been in it, we've known someone that has the virus, to tell the authorities, and also to wear a mask, wash our hands, and keep ourselves clean, so we can help prevent the spread of this awful, awful virus that I think it's killed almost close to 1,000 people already. We just hope it doesn't get worse. But so far, everything in the Philippines is okay. People are getting a little bit worried. but hopefully the virus doesn't spread, and we can all relax and breathe a sigh of relief a few months from now. But I have a feeling this is going to go on a little bit longer than what they're saying, and it's probably going to go on probably until the summer. That's what people are saying. It may run out in July or August. So we just have to pray that everything's going to be okay. We take the precautions. We act as good citizens, and we just take it from there, that this virus will kind of move off and we can get back to our daily business and going outside and having reunions and parties and New Year's as well. So for everyone out there that's been listening, please subscribe. Please hit that like button. Please do it. I'd really appreciate it. We're a new channel. I think we're a good channel. Of course, we're always trying to get better. So please tell us what you'd like to see, and report about if you like this video in the comment section below. And please subscribe and tell your friends about us, okay? Take care out there and be well. And God bless. See you later.